Sound is the best medicine, and I believe the medicine for the future, because everything is basically water. We are pure water, and the planet is water. Everything is water.
Welcome to the Spirits Beside Us podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lippincott. I'm an ex-Wall Street analyst turned international medium, spiritual teacher, and best-selling author. Each week we'll dive into the fascinating and uplifting arena of the non-physical world to help you deepen your understanding and spiritual connection to the unseen realm. We'll also share a behind-the-scenes look with others who've done the same and speak with experts in the field about their experiences. Pull up a seat and let's dive into these perspective-changing conversations. Well, welcome everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Spirits Beside Us. I'm so glad that you're here with us again. Today we've got a truly special guest with us. We've got Katharina Hillenberg, and she is so unique. She is truly an energy alchemist, which is so unique. We've got to talk about this, as well as a specialist in evolutionary astrology. And she also works with gene keys and the human design system. So there's so much to talk about. But what she essentially does is bridges the gap between those spiritual systems we were just talking about, as well as innovative approaches and as well as modern science, including bio and DNA hacking, while also working with essential oils. So she's working with both modern as well as traditional, as well as some very unique approaches to try to heal people and raise a vibration of humanity. So Katharina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris, for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. It's truly unique to have someone with your specialties and your unique approach to healing and helping and really trying to raise a vibration for everybody. So first off, we've got to talk about this energy alchemy. It sounds so unique and some might even say far out. Perhaps you can describe for us what energy alchemy is. What is an energy alchemist?
Well, when I looked at all the things that I'm doing, even while you were introducing me, I was trying to find a way to put it all into one term that might, for me anyways, it's simple, but it's actually, that puts everything under one umbrella. And that's what energy alchemy is for me, because if I work with gene keys, if I work with human design, if I work with oils, if I work with sound frequencies or evolutionary astrology, all of these things, they have one aim for me, and that's to transmute lower vibrational states of someone into higher vibrational states. And we can use systems like astrology, human design to have a better understanding on how we can do that. Or we can use nature, we can use oils that carry a specific frequency, or we can use sound, which is also why I would love to work with the DNA and, all of these kinds of things. Because every frequency or vibration we put into the DNA structure elevates our overall frequency and the way we vibrate. And so that's basically what I mean with energy alchemists. So everyone who comes to me, my intention is that they vibrate on a higher level after they are done with me, so to speak.
Great. Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. So it's like the old, definition of, the old alchemists in the Middle Ages who would try to transmute, metal into gold.
Exactly.
You're doing a similar thing, only with vibration. You're trying to take somebody's personal vibration who, may not necessarily be terribly high, terribly elevated, and you're trying to help them elevate, that vibration to a higher level, a healthier level, a more joyful level, loving level.
Exactly, which, it's interesting that you bring, it's not interesting because it's very fitting, the analogy between metal and gold, because that's also what happens in our DNA structure. That's why I love to talk about science as well. It's actually, you can literally measure that vibration that you carry, and our DNA is also carries all of these elements. We just have to look into it deeper. And so there are many experiments where, we can talk to our DNA, which has an influence, which is what readings do, or, you can talk to yourself, obviously, but then also sound and color has an effect on the elements as well. they vibrate on a specific level, then again, we can use oils that vibrate on a higher level. And so there are many ways we can, so to speak, biohack or DNA hack ourselves to, be in a more golden-like state, I want to say.
Interesting. I love that term, the golden state. Raise yourself from a base metal to a precious metal, a base human to a precious human. Well, we're all precious in the end. But you mentioned sound healing, which I think you mentioned sound healing, or at least sound therapy. I mean, I love going to sound healings. Maybe you can also describe how sound healings, first of all, what a sound healing is for people who aren't familiar with it, but also how a sound healing can really help us. And it's almost like if I understand it, very much like a cell therapy.
It is. I mean, sound is the best medicine, and I believe the medicine for the future, because everything is basically water. We are pure water, and the planet is water. Everything is water and light. I want to say in electricity. And we can use all of these tools, like we can use electricity that is recorded sound and then let it penetrate, so to speak, our inner water as well. We can also obviously talk about, what kind of water we drink and, how we can put an intention into water. That's also has a huge healing effect. And there are so many, like experiments and like videos even that you can watch on YouTube, what happens when you speak to water or when you have sound influencing water. And again, that's when we talk about different frequencies. We can use the Hertz scale to really influence the water and the way the water then shapes and moves. And then thinking about that your cells also carry a lot of water. Water stores memory, also emotions and stories. So how can we clear and purify our waters, our cells, from the denser stories that we carry, that we inherited? It's not even, sometimes from this lifetime, it's from your lineage, it's from, what you perceive in the outside world. It's all of that. And I mean, I myself use sound that I don't even want to say on a regular basis, on a like minute to minute basis. There's no way that I'm without sound. Like I start with, a sound bath in the morning. And when I feel like I need to cleanse from, the density outside, and I do a tunings fork session or whatever. Like there are so many ways. And it's also something where I believe you don't have to be an expert. There are so many tools out there. You can Google, you can YouTube. There are Hertz frequencies, like 432 Hertz is the most harmonic healing frequency we can have in general, but then there are also specific healing frequencies for the chakras. If you feel like, gosh, I feel really ungrounded, you can listen to the Schumann resonance, which is like the heartbeat of the earth. So there's so many ways, we have tools to hack our DNA and be our own little alchemist every moment all around us.
I guess we can put on those little alchemy hats just ourselves and go running around the house with our little alchemy hats. That would be great. You were mentioning the frequency in water, and that reminded me of, I think there was a Japanese experiment a while back where a Japanese scientist water crystals and would freeze the crystals, if I remember right. And depending on whether he yelled or whether he was saying, kind words, the crystals would either, change shape. Is that the right one?
Yeah, it's Hashimoto. I forgot, but he's a Japanese guy. I know it's like the most famous water experiment. And he basically spoke either like loving things to the water and it would shape in a specific way, or very destructive things. There's also a really great video. I don't know if you're familiar with Greg Braden. Greg Braden, it's been years ago that he did that, but he talked about also how thoughts carry a frequency, right? And the way we speak to water, but then also music carries frequency, because water essentially obviously doesn't listen in like to the words, to the letters, the way we think, right? But there's obviously a communication going on between us speaking to water and the water perceiving the information and then shaping in a certain way. So what actually happens is that water listens to the vibration that these thoughts carry. So that's also why it's important to, if you set an intention, what's your energetic charge? So how emotionally involved are you with that intention? And that will then also ripple into how the water perceives that. That's basically telepathic communication, which is all about, sending energy back and forth,
Yeah,
right?
I was just going to say, it sounds like everything, if you're the common denominator here is just energy, whether you're
Exactly.
thinking positive thoughts, thinking negative thoughts, saying negative thoughts, it's the energy that is coming out, whether it's a thought or a spoken concept. It's the energy that actually is received on the other end as that energy. So
Exactly.
if you think positive thoughts, then the water is going to receive the positive energy and shape in that reflect. It's basically a reflection of that energy that you sent
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
Like
I mean, that's why I say energy alchemist, because I'm a huge fan of Tesla. And what did he say? If you want to understand the universe, you just have to think in energy and vibration, electricity also. Everything is energy. We are literally vibrating beings, electric beings. Yeah. And we just have to understand how to become aware of what kind of vibration we have. I mean, on my podcast, I'm sometimes a bit, I want to say, yeah, I like to call people out in a loving way, where I also say, if you feel like your vibe is off, your energy is off when you wake up, you have to, the first thing that you do is energetic hygiene. Meaning that you get yourself back on track, because otherwise you go outside into the world and you pollute the air with your vibration. Literally. And I mean, we have way too many people that actually do that. They don't care, because you send out that vibration with no matter who you encounter. I mean, even the tree that you walk by, will feel your vibe. And if the vibe is off, it's not really helping the tree, right? Yeah, but then also we know these people, that when we're in the supermarket and they just look grumpy, and we just feel like, oh my gosh,
we feel it.
Yeah. In comparison, if you walk past by someone who is literally sunshine on legs, you're like, oh, I want to have a little bit of that. I mean,
yeah, yes. Exactly. It's like, I want what they're taking. And again, that goes to the energy, but where's that energy stored? In the aura. So if your aura is starting to pick up the energy from the other person's aura, that's where you're starting to connect. And that's where the aura is so critical, because you'll literally feel that energy. Everybody says, oh, I don't know how to do that. You don't need to know. You innately have it. You innately know how to feel it. It's all in the feeling. That's amazing. So I love this whole concept about working with the energy and becoming much more aware of the energy. It's so critical. That's one thing I've been trying to help people become a little bit more attuned to, a little bit more aware of, include in their day. Just like you said, if you feel off, well, then you're feeling right, so do something about it.
Exactly. And also, I love to empower people in terms of that, they have their own energy, control, or I want to say, over their own, or power over their own frequency. Yes, there are things that can influence us and that make our vibe be a bit off, if we don't sleep well or whatever also. But again, we have so many tools out there that it can help us shift that, and the highest expression. I don't want someone to feel like I need energy alchemist Kathy for every single situation I feel off. I want to let them know what they can do, and that there are many, many tools for us to tap into and, to shift our energy and to raise it by ourselves.
Right. And is this very similar to the saying, what you think about, you bring about?
I guess, yeah, because thoughts carry a vibration. And I mean, how much time of your day do you spend thinking? So what do we think is probably the most, the biggest influence on our vibration is probably our thinking. It's not the outside world.
So it really sounds like there's a lot of probability that the concept of manifestation is quite a real thing. We can manifest if we just allow our thoughts to focus on, what it is that we ultimately are desiring.
My take on manifestation is maybe a little bit different than I want to say what most people would, how they would describe it. I don't think there's a thing like manifestation, actually. What I believe is happening is that we shift into the vibration that is a match to the timeline where the thing is already happening, because everything is already happening. And as soon as you have a thought or idea or desire, I always like to say it's actually that timeline where it's happening trying to communicate to you how exciting it would be to experience it in the physical. So it's just that timeline wants you to come and you want to go there. So what's the gap here? Because it's already happening, but you're not perceiving it. So there must be a glitch in the energetic field, because you're basically not a match to it yet. And so you have to raise your vibration or alchemize your vibration to the level where then you actually experience it.
That sounds exactly like the quantum physics theory of the Copenhagen interpretation that states that everything is in all locations simultaneously, but only localized when it is receiving a specific energy. And that energy is usually our energy, our thought.
Yeah.
And that creates the thing, and it appears, which kind of gives the feeling of a manifestation. Is that kind of the way we should be looking at it this way, from that angle?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's you have to become a physical match, so to speak, with your entire being to that timeline, because otherwise it's just a concept up in the ether, so to speak.
Yeah, in multiple places and multiple times until it's ultimately acted upon by the energy that localizes it into reality.
Yeah. You can say even, I like to explain that also how, you travel to dimensions and timelines, really this idea of your vibration and changing your vibration is basically you flying or moving to a different kind of earth or to a different kind of, life experience, you want to say, for the bigger things, right?
Okay, interesting. So you're also a specialist in evolutionary astrology. What is evolutionary astrology? Is that different than astrology, or how are they different?
So it's Western astrology, first and foremost, and my approach is evolutionary, based also on Jeffrey Wolf Green's work, which has been a huge inspiration for me, because he puts Pluto, the planet Pluto, in the center of the chart, so to speak, as the most important thing to look into, because it represents the soul. Pluto, planet of death, rebirth, transformation. So it's basically this question, what did I come here to transform, right? And with that in alignment, we also look at Chiron, which is one of my favorite asteroids, planets, however we want to label him. It's the wounded healer, and it looks like a key, like the symbol of Chiron, and basically holds the key to your healing, but also the medicine that you are meant to share with the world. And it's usually very connected to the Pluto theme as well. So where you're like, my soul wanted to go through these challenges, that transformation, that death and rebirth process, right, in order to learn and heal. And that became my medicine for myself, but also for the world, because we don't go through our suffering for no reason or just for ourselves alone. I just don't believe that, because we are interconnected. And so, yeah, we got to share our medicine at some point.
Wow, interesting. I guess you're looking at is that I don't know if you call them astrology maps or astrology chart. The astrology charts, are they different? So if a person is born on some date on one chart, it'll say one thing, but on another chart, that date would represent something different. Is that kind of the way it works?
Not really, no. I mean, that would be the difference between Western and Vedic astrology. Then you have sort of like different birth chart, but with the Western, it's still Western astrology, and it still looks, it's the same birth chart, but my way of interpreting it or explaining it is just really centered around Pluto and Chiron. Obviously also the basics like your sun, moon, and rising sign, and all of these things, but it's really just about, you can look at a chart from so many like angles. Some people just want to know about their finances or their love life or whatever, but when someone comes to me, it's usually like, no, what's my purpose? Like, why did I come here? Like, why am I, excuse my French, in this shit show right now? Why do I have to suffer? Like, what's happening? Help me understand, so it doesn't feel as shitty.
Got it. So it's really sort of the people come to you and they ask, why am I suffering? And this is really more a question of, this is so that you are learning these lessons to help you evolve as you go forward, as opposed to other maps that would not have that philosophy, that approach to what the chart really means. Okay. And you're also a specialist in gene keys. What are gene keys?
The gene keys is a system that is also very connected to the Chinese I Ching. So it's basically, if Richard Rudd invented that, it's also connected to human design, and it's basically explaining how there are 64 keys, so to speak, that, have a specific resonance also. And we all are incarnated with a different set of keys. And in these keys alone is a threefold journey, from the shadow through the gift into the city, which is the highest expression of that key. And so that's also in a way using the evolutionary approach that I have with astrology, but then also understanding energy alchemy. How can I go from the lower expression of that key into the highest expression of that key, because then automatically my vibration rises. And these tools help us to really work on a cellular level because it's stored in the DNA. Even in the gene keys, there are, different amino acids that work into it, and different body and organ systems. So it's very, very deep. And it's all about how can I vibrate in a higher state.
Okay. Is the gene key system related to the human design system? Are they basically interwoven, or are they different things?
So human design is based on astrology, the I Ching, quantum physics, and the Kabbalah tree of life and the chakra system. And in human design, you have specific gates, and these gates are actually gene keys gates. So that's where there is a connection. But you also have in human design, for example, a connection to astrology, which is why I love to work with all of these systems, because I like to really blend it together in a session so people understand, okay, if I know my Mars sign in my birth chart, but then I also know the specific gene key of my Mars sign in my birth chart, I can actually approach my Mars in a more holistic way, because I also understand the intention behind my Mars, what energy it carries, and how I can best express that energy.
Interesting. And as you're doing this, are you at any point feeling a connection to spirit? Are you hearing or feeling or knowing spirit around you? Or is it more just sort of the energy that you're feeling without really sort of perceiving spirit?
I would say when I'm in a session, even though I speak about I'm using all of these tools, I feel like at the end of the day, I'm not using any of them because I very much connect to, I like to say, the highest expression of the person in front of me. I'm very visual, so I see like movies and I literally am very clairvoyant, but also very clear cognizant in that way. And whatever energy is talking to me, when we talked earlier, it's actually energy that is being transmitted to me to let me know there's a blockage for that person. You need to address this specific topic, or ask her that specific question. It's basically, I want to say, source energy or the highest expression of that being working with me, so they are receiving exactly what they need to hear in that very moment. Because at the highest expression, I always say, we are all in each other's hologram, right? We all live in each other's hologram in a way. And why am I being projected into your hologram and sit in front of you to let you know something? It's actually you projecting me in order to guide you, right?
Yeah, it's that interconnectedness where there really is no separation, with the exception of the ego mind allowing us to perceive that there's a separation. So it's a different reality. It's far greater than the human mind and eyes and brain can perceive.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you give us an example of, various cases that you've had, or examples of, sort of a typical healing, or, somebody comes in with, symptoms X and you work with tools Y and you give them healing Z, or sort of help us walk through, sort of a typical session, if there is one.
I mean, there is honestly never a typical session, which I love, because I can never prepare, because you never know what's
Right.
going to come up. But I mean, there are a few clients that I worked with long term. I don't like to speak about it, but I mean, it's really what happened. 2 of them had breast cancer, and we went really deep into, obviously they did a lot of other medicine, not just working with me, but I think real understanding the cause of it and working on the heart chakra, and then also the G center in the human design was really helpful for the journey. And then also I had one of my clients, actually really she's also a long-term client, always had skin issues, acne and everything, and we worked on her spleen. And in her human design, she was also splenic authority, which is basically how she has to make decisions. And she was really not in alignment with her spleen. And so I gave her a lot of information about that, and obviously helped her be more in alignment with her energy. And also we've discovered that it's really her environment and all of these things. And sure enough, as soon as she followed her energetic blueprint again, her skin cleared up and she moved to a different environment, and she, broke up with like someone who was toxic for her, that she needed to have boundaries from, right? And didn't have before. Skin is also the organ of boundaries to the outside world. So there was just a lot of things coming together. And then also, I have single activation sessions and solar return sessions. And what I love the most is when people come to me every year for their birthday, and I give them sort of like the insight of their year ahead and activate them for those themes. And then the year after, they come to me and they're like, this is exactly what happened. Or even during the year, they tell me like, gosh, I got this new job offer, and now all of a sudden this is unfolding, and all of these ideas, and I just feel so fired up. Like, that's the biggest thing that I could wish for. And also, I have to say, one of my great joys is also working with a private client that is a mom, and we dove into the human design of the children so she could better understand her children and how to navigate their energies, and also an energetic difference as children. And she just said, like, it's a miracle how the dynamic and the vibration and energy in the family changed, right? Because when you understand the energy of your child, and that one child is different than the other, and you might have to, take care of them in a different way. And then also maybe your husband knows that, and it's also a better way of parenting them. And then probably less arguments and less like struggles and like confusion is happening, and the children are happier, and then the whole energy in the house is happy,
It sounds like this upward spiral of positive
Yes.
energy. One leads to the next. Wow, that's great. Yeah, so this must be, so rewarding for you to see the results of helping people to raise their energy, just starting with, baby footsteps almost.
Absolutely. Again, that's where I say we are interconnected. And as soon as I'm working with someone, I want to say my energy is plugged into them for probably the rest of my life. And so every time their vibe is off, my vibe could also be off. Obviously, it's not that extreme. But I want to say in the other spectrum, I take it. If your vibe is rising and you share that with me, and I know that I'm a little puzzle piece of that, I'm flying too. A
little bit of residual healing for you too.
Yes, I'm like, okay, cool.
So you had mentioned, I think, that some of the the essential oils have their own vibration. So is that where essential oils and herbalism kind of fits into the picture? Is it because they have their own vibrations, and you're working with that as well?
Yes, exactly. I also use adaptogens and a lot of herbs. I've just always been a huge fan of, I don't want to say supplements, but in a way it's supplements, just what can we do to fine tune our biofield or our day-to-day experience, like adaptogens, for example, like, medicinal mushrooms and things like that. I love to work with the way to raise our vibration if we feel off, or like flower remedies. I love Bach flower remedies as well. They've been with me since I was a child. And then also oils, of course, oils for many reasons. We can obviously apply them on the biggest organ that we have, which is the skin, right? And it has a huge influence, but also just, it has a similar effect as smelling a rose, right? In the outside, what does it do to us? It like instantly calms us. Or like smelling a tree, it reminds us of grounding. And then also, obviously, there are really, really potent oils like frankincense oil or myrrh, or again, rose oil, or peppermint if you feel, like we have a headache or something like that. And then there are also oil blends that we can use to have specific blend of frequencies. And they have an instant effect on our entire organism, because again, if we inhale it, we can use it to inhale. And what's the first thing that we do when we come to life? Heartbeat and breath, right? And what do people usually forget? Breathing during the day, and that's also what gets our vibe off. And so that's why it's so powerful, but so simple in a way, but powerful.
Do you also use crystals? Because clearly their energy as well. Is that part of the mix, using crystals?
I use crystals, yes. Not as much anymore, to be honest with you, but I used to do crystal gridding, actually, because I work with sacred geometry as well for homes and for spaces, just to clear the energy and to kind of like create a protective field. I also use incense a lot and like burning, because again, alchemy, I guess I was an alchemist at some point, but I like to work with all elements. So I like to have fire around to burn things, water, obviously, and then, yeah, air, like, so yeah.
Interesting. Maybe in your past life, going back several hundred years ago, maybe you were an alchemist, and who knows, maybe you were selling loads of gold.
I definitely feel that. I mean, I'm not sure about selling the gold, but definitely know that I've been in the woods and in the forest and in the trees and collecting all of these information. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, clearly there was the manipulation of the elements, and that you were definitely aware of way back when. It's followed you multiple lifetimes, without a doubt. So what I'm so curious about is, how did all this start? What was your childhood like? Where did this all come up? How did you this is not a typical path.
True, I guess, yeah, because I always knew I can't go the typical route and path in a way, which honestly as a child wasn't really easy. I mean, I had not a bad childhood, but like from the outside looking into, just perceiving me. But internally, I was just like really struggling because I felt so out of place. Like I didn't know what I'm doing here, like why I'm here, what this is all about. And then on top of that, ever since I was a child, very young, I was sleepwalking. So I had really wild experiences in my dreams, sometimes also where I was not conscious, and the next day my parents would tell me what I did. So I felt very out of control in my body. I wasn't like sure if they were just joking or if that was actually happening. So I felt really terrified in a way because I didn't know what I was doing during the night. And then some nights I had, again, like crazy dreams, or like the in-between state was kind of rough. And there were many things where it was just between realms and didn't know how to navigate it, which was, I guess until I was a teenager and really tapped into the spiritual world, I was really having a hard time with that. And there was a period in my life from childhood until then where I didn't want to do anything, know anything about that. Like that was not my world at all. I had major resistance towards astrology, towards all things spiritual. It was all too woo-woo for me. And I was like, no, don't get me there. But then something took over and I was like, well, let me give it another try. And then I discovered birth charts, I discovered human design, I discovered all of that. And I was like, why does this feel so second nature to me? It's so easy for me to get it all. And it's also fascinating all of a sudden. And so that's when I opened myself up to it again, because I blocked that for a long time, to the point where I had, I guess until my 20s, I didn't remember any dreams. Like if you would have asked me like, what did you dream last night? Nothing, because I blocked it so far away because of these experiences in childhood. And then I consciously made an effort to remember my dreams again. And I mean, now I can write entire books after every night. There's so much that is happening where I'm like, really? I need a break.
Are dreams, that brings up another interesting question. Are dreams really important for us to be aware of? How do dreams affect us, either energetically or otherwise?
Again, my perception around dreams has changed a lot, because for me, it's just a different dimension, like a different dimensional experience. We actually never, I don't want to say we never dream, we always dream. That's what I would say. So everything that you experience is a dream of consciousness, in a way. And so it's just about, is it physical? Is it, another it's basically tapping into different versions of reality. That's what you do in a way. Different dimensional, different vibration, because we know, again, what is our brain doing during the night? Researching, it's tapping into different brainwave states, right? And what are we doing during the day? We tap into a different brainwave state. What do we do in meditation? Different brainwave state. So it's all basically based on that, which again brings us back to, it's a different energetic, I want to say, experience that allows you to be a different energetic match to a different energetic timeline. That's what dreams are. And we can spend our daytime then to interpret the dreams, to think about the symbolism, all of the things, and make it means something very significant, I'm not sure if that's always what's happening.
Interesting. So it really does seem, throughout everything you've been talking about, there's some form of evolution, kind of the concept of going from a base metal to a precious metal, the alchemy, the change, etc. So you've been talking about sort of earlier about this evolutionary shift that's kind of coming over the next, several years. What's happening in your perception and your understanding as far as humanity is scaling up? Is humanity rising in its vibration? What's happening with this evolutionary shift?
I would say it's inevitable that humanity has to change, and it's up on the individual if that's happening. I definitely feel, and I mean, at least in my version of perceiving reality, that many people are really raising their energy field and like becoming more aware of it, conscious. We're having these conversations here. Like, I want to say the light is definitely rising. The vibration is rising on the planet, while the density is also increasing, because that's where we see there needs to be more light, right? And so we will have a huge shift being prophesied, so to speak, also for human design in 2027, where literally a new species in a way is being born or is coming that raise or that vibe on a completely different level in a way. And we are sort of this bridge generation that prepares the planet and all, literally our ecosystem for these people that also obviously birthed them into life then. And that's what's happening. That's why everything is so, amplifying. But I do feel that that density that is coming up really also creates a huge urge in everyone to change something, to shift the vibe, because usually if you feel quite good, there's not that kind of necessity to look into sound healing and to be like, oh, let me go into even higher states, right? But if you feel like shit hits the fan and I don't know what to do anymore, then you might consider, well, let me see what else I can do,
Oh, I see. So you're indicating that because we're feeling this greater density, whether it's through global conflict or internal strife or whatever, that is causing also simultaneously a higher shift towards a higher vibration, almost one causing the other. It almost feels like they're both rising, like the density is rising at the same time the higher vibration is rising, almost like they have to be in balance. Like one can't really
exactly what you say. Nature has to be in balance. So it's very much like cause and effect normal, that if our vibration is rising and a lot of people like really rising up the scale, well, the density has to increase too. It has to be balanced out in a way. And then also that density creates even more necessity, right? Urge to again move into a higher states.
So do we want to avoid the density, or is one going to prevail? Is like the higher the vibration? It's kind of like when you bring light into a dark room, the light by definition is going to push away the dark, because as soon as you bring light into a dark room, the darkness dissipates. Would that be the same thing as the higher vibration, that the higher vibration by definition would dissipate the more dense vibration?
I would say no, because in order to see the light, there has to be a contrast somewhere, because otherwise you wouldn't know the light actually exists. So again, the balance, I definitely feel like nature always balances itself out, but we can choose which side of the spectrum am I? Like, where is my vibration? Because that determines what you perceive. I mean, it's literally, there are people like Dolores Cannon speaking about the split of the earth and all of these things. What that really means is, and that's my mantra since 2020, I always said, even to my clients, there is one potent mantra that I have for you with this entire, everything that happened and people fear-mongering and here shortages and that. And I just always said, not in my reality. And sure, I know it might sound like you live in your own little unicorn bubble and what are you talking about? But that's just been my biggest, I want to say, I don't know if I can say it on your podcast, but I'm saying my virus protection has always been, that's my vaccine. I just always said not in my reality. I just knew that's my we create our reality, and our energy and literally determines what we become a vibrational match to, what we had earlier. And if my energy field is literally blocking that possibility, then it's not happening. And sure enough, it didn't even happen. I didn't even come in touch with any of that for the entire time. I traveled the world during that time where everyone was at home. And I was like, not in my reality, I'm not able to fly. It's just going to happen,
And there are so many cases of people going into disease-ridden geographies or disease-ridden camps, or, there are even, whether it's, in scripture or the Bible, people going into these places filled with, horrible disease, and just based on the way they think, like, I can't get it. It's not possible. Yeah. And sure enough, they walk in and everybody else is sick, but they walk out and they're perfectly healthy. And it's exactly the same thing that we see with cancer remissions. People have the positive attitude. They'll be focused on, laughing and joy and positivity. And suddenly the cancer goes into remission and the doctors can't explain it. It's all energy.
It is, where we talk, again, there's the placebo effect we could ponder on, which is really just energetic effect in a way, and that many cases of spontaneous healing, like how does that happen? Or Joe Dispenza talks about how, he was able to make himself walk again. And that's also why, I'm very much eager to empower people to look into different healing modalities. Yeah. Because, what the medical system does, unfortunately, is like, here's your diagnosis, here's black on white on paper, all the test results, and it looks so like set in stone that this is the way it has to be, when really it doesn't. That's one version of reality that is in front of you on some paper. I can give you some ink and some paper and write something on it,
Right. But there's so many cases, even within the medical community, like Dr. Joe Dispenza and all these other people that were formerly of, the Western medicine viewpoint, that went through their own, some would refer to it as miraculous healing, but in reality, it's more that energetic healing where they change their reality. I think this was it on the movie The Secret? I think also there was that person who had an airplane crash, and they said, "Oh, you're never going to walk again. You're going to be completely paralyzed." Yeah, Christmas Day, he got out of the hospital and was walking perfectly fine because he said, "No, I am going to walk out of this hospital, and I'll prove it to you.
I'm going to make myself a match to the timeline where I'm walking again. Sorry."
Exactly. He just put it in his head, determined, and that was the way it was, and they were just absolutely aghast.
That's the thing that people have to understand. Every thought and idea that you perceive, right? Every desire, my favorite thing to talk about, it's actually a Greek word, and it means from source or from God. So every desire in your heart, which is an electric charge, right? Because the desire usually invokes like huge energy and like emotion in us. We want to have it, we crave it. So it's an electric impulse from God, from source, from the creator, whatever you want to say, right? That actually is eager to be manifested. It exists. It's literally that timeline communicating to you, saying, hey, come to me. And so if you know that, then you have to understand that you're not desiring that to suffer because you can never have it. It's actually out there for you. So it's just about you shifting into that vibration. And so it all comes back to, belief, right? You have to believe that, obviously. You have to believe that that's possible, and that it's actually possible for you to go into that, even if everything looks completely different right now. Even if right now you can't walk, if you have in your mind, when you meditate, when you contemplate or whatever, it's like, I want to walk again. Yeah, because that exists. It's possible for you.
Wow. So what would you say to those people? Say, well, yeah, I'm all the time, I'm desiring this one thing, but I try to believe, but then it never comes true. What would you say to those people who say, desiring and believing, I can't do it, doesn't work?
That's the thing with manifestation in a way too, where people are too fixated on, I want to have that, I want to have that, I want to have that, which basically says, I'm not having it right now, I'm not having it right now, I'm not having it right now. Why do I not have it already? So what energy is that? You carry the energy of, I don't have it. Yeah, and then it's true, you don't have it because your thoughts are constantly saying, I'm not having it yet. How do I make it happen? What can I do? So it's just constantly sending out a signal, I'm not having it, I'm not having it, I'm not having it. So you are a vibrational match to not having it. Yeah.
It's the energy of lack. So what's the proper way of sending out that desire? What's the better way of doing, of changing the perspective around saying, I'm so glad that I have it.
So it's
bringing it forward.
In a way, it's similar to, you have that holiday booked in June, right? And right now you're not stressing that you don't have that holiday now. It's going to happen. It's just in June. So it's just like, I know I'm going to be there on the beach sipping a cocktail. I'm relaxed because it's going to happen and I'm already excited for it, So
you can see it in your mind's eye.
Yeah, it's booked. It's booked. It's done. Like, I don't have to worry now about finding a hotel or will I go to a holiday or is it going to happen or not? Like, why? Because right now I'm not on the beach. Like, is it really going to happen or is it not going to happen? Like, that's what people usually do, right? Instead of like, no, it's actually booked. Like, I set the intention out there. I felt it in my core, how good it would feel to be on that beach, sipping that margarita, whatever, right? And so it's done. I planted a seed, it's going to happen. The only thing with manifestation, obviously, is then we don't know how much time it will take, so to speak, for your vibration to shift, because that's very much based on, your thoughts and, how much you believe. And so we cannot say it's going to happen in June or it's going to happen tomorrow, right? As in the example of the holiday, that's where people's doubt kick in, because then it's like, oh, it's not here yet. And that's when they sabotage usually the whole thing.
Interesting. Yeah. So they think it's going to happen by a certain point in time. And then when that point in time doesn't arrive, they're like, look, it didn't happen. It doesn't work. You're lying to me. Is that also something, this sense of lack, is that also tied to the trying to set the intention too much, like you're repeatedly setting the same intention over and over and over again?
Yes.
Don't you just have to say it once or twice and it's done?
Yeah, because again, it doesn't make sense if you say I want something and it's ordered. You wouldn't call the restaurant like 5 million times to say like, hey, that I want that order. It's like you doubt the restaurant. And then also, like, what is it implying? Like, can you just focus on something else for a second? Because you already ordered, or did you not order? Like, what's happening,
Oh, wow. That's a great analogy.
I like to bring that analogy because it's true. Actually, we are just like the universe in a way, or consciousness source. It's an unlimited buffet. We just have to, at some point, choose what do we start with,
That's beautiful. It's a great quotation. You got to use that. Wow, that's wonderful. So what would be your biggest single recommendation to a person who's listening now, sort of to sum up everything we've been speaking about? What would be your single and most important recommendation to somebody?
Take care of your energy and don't pollute the world with a low vibration. Because again, your energy it's your greatest currency. It really is. It determines the flow of your life on all levels, right? Including the inward and outward flow. Even if we talk about abundance and all of the things, everything that you attract. And we have so many tools. We have human design to understand your energetic blueprint, gene keys to tap deeper into it, astrology, sound. I mean, we talked about so many different things here too. There are so many ways that help us to shift our vibration. And it's not just helpful for ourselves, but also for everyone that we engage with. And so that's why I think it's, the greatest purpose or offering that we can give to the world, first of all, is our vibration.
So true. So true. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for being on the show today. Really appreciate it. You brought such upliftment and wonderful awareness to the importance of raising our vibration today. So I thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I mean, it's my pleasure. And I really pray that some people in here got some curiosity about all the tools that we talked about. And obviously that we both in our conversation shifted their energy today too.
Yeah. I hope so. Well, wonderful. Well, great. And thank you for being on. And everyone, I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. Thank you for supporting the show. And if you like the show, please don't forget to rate and review the show, Spirits Beside Us. And if you have, if you're curious about any of the information about Kathy, about all of her offerings and everything that she's got, we've got loads of information about her website, how you can contact her. All that information will be in the show notes as well. So make sure that you check out the show notes so we can reach out to her. We'll have lots of contacts about also different information we mentioned here, different people, different books, different topics, etc. So again, thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you next week, where we're going to continue talking about raising our vibration, connecting with spirit, connecting with the joy and love of everything around us. So with that, this is Chris signing off, sending you love and light, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Spirits Beside Us. Make sure you head over to the show notes for all the links and information on this week's episode. You can check it out at spiritsbesideus.com. If you love this episode as much as I did, head over to rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're looking for a community of spiritual seekers like yourself, make sure you join my Facebook page, Spirits Beside Us Podcast on Facebook. This is Chris signing off, sending you love and light. I can't wait to connect with you again on Wednesday.